President Trump has recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Will this bring peace to the region, or will it bring another dark wave of terrorist attacks from Muslim militants? You're going to learn more on this program than you probably will on any cable news outlet. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance. At the heart and soul of the so-called Arab-Israeli or Palestinian-Israeli conflict is religion. And until that is acknowledged, our negotiators, our president, the pontificators, everyone is going to be clueless. And we'll get to that at the end of the program. So stay with me, because I'm going to show you how in the heart and soul of Islam, there can be no recognition of the nation of Israel. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's play the first clip. For those of you who, for some reason, did not get to see much of President Trump's declaration, we're going to play several minutes of it here, and I'm going to comment on it for you as we go. The president wisely started off with political cover for his domestic critics, those in America who are going to say, what was he doing that for? Watch for yourself.
We cannot solve our problems by making the same failed assumptions and repeating the same failed strategies of the past. Old challenges demand new approaches. My announcement today marks the beginning of a new approach to conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. In 1995, Congress adopted the Jerusalem Embassy Act, urging the federal government to relocate the American embassy to Jerusalem and to recognize that that city, and so importantly, is Israel's capital. This act passed Congress by an overwhelming bipartisan majority and was reaffirmed by a unanimous vote of the Senate only 6 months ago. Yet for over 20 years, every previous American president has exercised the law's waiver, refusing to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem or to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital city. Presidents issued these waivers under the belief that delaying the recognition of Jerusalem would advance the cause of peace. Some say they lacked courage, but they made their best judgment based on facts as they understood them at the time. Nevertheless, the record is in. After more than 2 decades of waivers, we are no closer to a lasting peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. It would be folly to assume that repeating the exact same formula would now produce a different or better result. The Middle East is a region rich with culture, spirit, and history. Its people are brilliant, proud, and diverse, vibrant, and strong. But the incredible future awaiting this region is held at bay by bloodshed, ignorance, and terror. Vice President Pence will travel to the region in the coming days to reaffirm our commitment to work with partners throughout the Middle East to defeat radicalism that threatens the hopes and dreams of future generations.
So, how could President Trump be doing anything wrong? He's just following what Congress voted to do in 1995 during President Clinton's administration. And as he rightly pointed out, no American president has either had the guts or the wisdom to acknowledge Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And then here's this one other little quick soundbite. Watch this.
But today we finally acknowledge the obvious, that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. This is nothing more or less than a recognition of reality. It is also the right thing to do. It's something that has to be done. But today we finally acknowledge the obvious, that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. This is nothing more or less than a recognition of reality. It is also the right thing to do. It's something that has to be done.
Now, herein lies the problem. Unfortunately, reality is in part influenced by what someone sees or what they think they see. So for us, it's easy to say, look, come on, Jerusalem is the de facto capital of Israel. It's stating the obvious. But in the Muslim mind, in Muslim history, in Muslim theology, the Jews do not have a right to call Al-Quds the capital of Israel. That's what Muslims call Jerusalem, Al-Quds. And it goes back to the fact of this. Jerusalem is the third holiest site in Islam, the third holiest city after Mecca and Medina. Do you know why? I'm going to tell you when we come back from this break. And I think it's going to blow your mind. But I'm telling you right now, it's connected why there won't be peace. And why I'm predicting right here, right now, there's going to be a fresh wave of terrorist attacks aimed at Israel and at us for acknowledging Jerusalem as the capital. Don't go away. Today, many so-called Christian intellectuals believe that the God of evolution used billions of years of death and destruction to evolve the bodies of the first human beings. Then, they simply declare the theory of evolution as fact to justify their unproven scientific fallacies. By the grace of God, more and more Catholics are rejecting this modern-day mythology in favor of the traditional doctrine of creation, as recorded by the Bible, and believed and taught by all the fathers and doctors of the Church. To find out how sound theology and natural science confirm the sacred history of Genesis, visit the Colby Center for the Study of Creation, and be sure to check out our bookstore, which has titles like I Have Spoken to You from Heaven, A Catholic Defense of Creation in 6 Days, and A Catholic Assessment of Evolutionary Theory. That's the Colby Center for the Study of Creation. Thomas Jefferson once said that a man who does not fear the truth has no need to fear lies. It's a great quote. My duty as a talk show host doing this program in the fear of God is to call balls and strikes, to not deliberately omit things or not to twist things according to my political bent or what I want to see, but to just say, look, this is reality, okay? Calling balls and strikes. Just try and be a fair umpire when assessing facts and bringing forth facts, okay? So let's watch this clip. I'm gonna say some things in this segment that are probably gonna disturb a lot of people, but it's just because things are true. That really was a strike. That really was a ball. All right, go ahead, play the first clip.
Jerusalem is not just the heart of three great religions, but it is now also the heart of one of the most successful democracies in the world.
That statement is not exactly true. Jerusalem is the heart and soul of Christianity, okay? It's where our Lord Jesus was crucified and where he was raised from the dead. So in that aspect, Jerusalem holds a far more central place in Christianity than any of the three monotheistic religions in discussion. Sinai would hold a far more important place in Judaism because it's where Moses gave the Ten Commandments. Jerusalem was not conquered and made the capital of Israel until the life of David. Remember, the Jebusites controlled Jerusalem, and the Jews occupied Israel for generations before they finally took Jerusalem, and then ultimately it did in fact become the capital, and it was where Solomon's temple was built. So it became the focal point of Judaism, of the Jewish religion. Even further from the truth is the idea that Islam, that the heart and soul of Islam belongs in Jerusalem. The reason that Jerusalem holds a sacred place in Islamic theology, one that they are willing to fight and die for, the reason is because of the night flight. part of Islamic orthodoxy. You've got to believe this if you are a Muslim. Like, you've got to believe that Jesus was raised from the dead if you're a Christian. You deny that, you're denying Islam or Christianity. If you deny the night flight, you're denying Islam. The night flight is where Muhammad said that he fell asleep by the Kaaba in Mecca, and that two angels came and cut open his chest and took out all unbelief, and then they poured Zamzam water in and washed his insides and gave him faith, took away doubt, and then he mounted a horse named Barak. Yes, our former president was named after a mythical flying Arabic half horse, half man creature with wings. And that this horse took leaps and bounds and took Muhammad to the Temple Mount, what we now call the Temple Mount. And it was there that Muhammad ascended into heaven through the 7 layers and met with God face to face. And God gave him the order to pray 5 times a day. And on his way up, he talked to Moses and Abraham and Jesus and John the Baptist. And then he came down and then he left. So the Temple Mount is where the Dome of the Rock exists, and it's also where President Trump in his remarks referred to Al-Aqsa. That is the mosque that was built on the location where Muhammad allegedly came. So this clearly did not happen, okay? This is a fallacy. Muhammad never took a flight on a horse, okay? He never went through 7 heavens and talked to Jesus and Moses and Abraham and then met face to face with God. It's a fallacy, okay? However this originated in his head, it doesn't matter for this discussion. So the claim that that the holy city of Jerusalem is somehow a part of the heart and soul of all 3 religions is not an accurate statement. But there's one more. I want you to play the other clip really quick. I'm going to make a quick comment on it.
Over the past 7 decades, the Israeli people have built a country where Jews, Muslims, and Christians, and people of all faiths are free to live and worship according to their conscience and according to their beliefs.
All right, so here's the other problem. Israel does not really have freedom of religion. If you are a Christian living in Bethlehem and you want to go to Holy Sepulchre, if you're a Palestinian, chances are you're not going to be let in. All right? In other words, they have deliberately kept citizens who are in the nation of Israel, as Israel has drawn the borders. And they've said, you cannot come. If you're a Christian, you cannot come to worship where Jesus was crucified and buried. That's not freedom of religion, friends. And it is also against the law to openly evangelize Jews to Christianity there. It doesn't have freedom of religion as we understand it. So I'm a friend of Israel. I want to see Israel continue to exist. But unless they've made some recent change in the law that I missed, that's possible, on the books, it's against the law to stand in the streets and proclaim that Jesus is Lord and that the nation of Israel needs to repent and come to her messianic king. Let me take a break. Calling balls and strikes here. Don't go away. I have more of President Trump's remarks and more commentary. I'm going to explain to you why peace cannot come. Don't go away. Have Muslim terrorists hijacked the peaceful religion of Islam? Or is there more to the story? The answer lies in the life of one man, Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Muslim terrorists see themselves inside a 1,400-year-old story, a narrative that focuses on specific events in the life of Muhammad. We are going to look at Muhammad's life using their most sacred literature. We will look at Muhammad at the Battle of Badr. We'll see him deal with those who mock him. We'll see the times when he used deception. We'll witness Muhammad's anti-Semitism. And yes, we will discuss Muhammad and his teachings concerning sex, slavery, and jihad. Friend, if you want to understand Islamic terrorism, get this series today. Welcome back, friend. For point of clarity, I want to read to you the laws that are on the books in Israel regarding evangelism. Whoever gives or promises to a person money money's worth, or some other material benefit in order to induce him to change his religion, or in order that he may induce another person to change his religion, is liable to imprisonment for a term of 5 years or a fine of 50,000 pounds. Whoever receives or agrees to receive money's worth, or material benefit in return for a promise to change his religion, or to cause another person to change his religion, is liable to imprisonment for 3 years or a fine of 30,000 pounds. And then it goes on to quote another portion of the law, that it's against the law to induce a minor who's under 14 to convert without the parents' consent. So if somebody has a potluck dinner, they're giving away prayer shawls, they're giving away libraries of books on Jesus. These are things of monetary value, according to the law, okay? It's a material benefit in order to seduce him, or to induce him rather, to change his religion. It's against the law. And it's completely against the law for a minor. Now remember, Jesus was 12 when he was in the temple. There are a lot of people watching this broadcast who came to Christ as a child, went to a vacation Bible school, heard the gospel, saw it on TV. It's against the law for a child in Israel who's under 14 to accept Jesus Christ as their Savior. It's against the law. So, without their parents' knowledge. And the courts have ruled in Israel in various ways on this, but in clear terms, if you read on this material, you'll see that the Israeli government has had a steady hand to kind of suppress evangelism. They're not favorable towards it, but they also want to believe themselves to be, and they are in many aspects, part of the family of nations. I believe Billy Graham, who was allowed to preach in Russia when it was a communist nation, was not allowed to preach in Israel, according to one of the articles that I read. So I'm calling balls and strikes. But more importantly, I've been to Israel twice and listened to the heartache of Palestinian Christians who are separated from their families and whose families want to come for Easter or Christmas and be at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And they're not allowed to be. Okay? That's not freedom of religion, friends. It's just not. Not as we understand it as Americans. All right. Let's watch a couple more clips.
Consistent with the Jerusalem Embassy Act, I am also directing the State Department to begin preparation to move the American Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. This will immediately begin the process of hiring architects, engineers, and planners so that a new embassy, when completed, will be a magnificent tribute to peace.
Now this is almost funny. The New York Times just did a lengthy story about the fact that over 100 senior officials in the State Department have been dismissed because they are completely out of step with President Trump's foreign policy. And there are many in the State Department who don't want this. There are people in President Trump's administration that do not want him, or did not want him, to acknowledge Jerusalem. So he's got a problem on his hands, and he's saying, look, we're going to hire carpenters now, or architects. We're going to get the ball moving. We're going to get a site. So what President Trump is going to be fighting is the State Department. And you better believe that he's going to have some heavy hands there saying, just find some real estate and let's go. Now, the funny part is he said it's going to be a state-of-the-art facility. It's going to have to look like not look like, but it's going to have to be a barracks because it is going to be a target for Islamic terrorism. All right. Play that last clip, please.
In making these announcements, I also want to make one point very clear. This decision is not intended in any way to reflect a departure from our strong commitment to facilitate a lasting peace agreement. We want an agreement that is a great deal for the Israelis and a great deal for the Palestinians. We are not taking a position of any final status issues, including the specific boundaries of the Israeli sovereignty in Jerusalem or the resolution of contested borders. Those questions are up to the parties involved. The United States remains deeply committed to helping facilitate a peace agreement that is acceptable to both sides.
So here you have hearkening back to the Six-Day War in 1967. The Jews won against Syria, Jordan, and Egypt, and they took parts of the Golan Heights. They took all of the West Bank. Put that map up. Every time you hear the West Bank, you think, well, it's to the east of Jerusalem. What does that mean? It's because it was the western bank of Jordan. The Jordan military occupied that. East Jerusalem is the West Bank. So President Trump is saying, look, I'm not dealing with borders because the border that Israel had in 1948 is not the border that it has today. They took all of Sinai from Egypt, and then they ended up giving it back because of President Carter cutting the deal with Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin. And the Gaza Strip was also part of Egypt, and now that's part of the Palestinian Authority. So the issue of borders, here's where President Trump may be actually able to exact some things out of Israel. He could say, that, look, I'm the most pro-Israeli president that's ever been. I acknowledge Jerusalem. No one else ever did that. So look, you guys are going to have to give up this, or you're going to have to give up that. I don't know if that's what's in his mind, because he is a deal maker. But saying that he's not dealing with any of the border issues by acknowledging Jerusalem is kind of a fig leaf, if you will, to the Arab world, to the Muslim world. I've got to take a quick break. I'll be right back with a couple more clips, and I'll explain to you why peace cannot come, at least not till somebody denies something really critical. What Would Mohammed Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained is the best movie series documentary ever produced on the life of Muhammad and Islam. How do I know? Because it's what critics are saying. John Moore, radio host and author, said, I learned more from What Would Mohammed Do about Islam and Islamic terrorism than I've learned from everything I ever read and watched in my entire life. Best-selling author Dr. Bill Warner said, What Would Mohammed Do is the best movie series, TV production on the life of Muhammad and Islamic terrorism that has ever been produced. Friends, this is what the experts are saying. No one has ever done what we've done. I encourage you to get 1, 2, 4 copies. Call 304-289-3700. That's 304-289-3700, or order it at the address or the website that you see on the screen. Friend, we have a series that will help you and those you love to have an impact on this country. It's called Insurrecta Nex. That's Latin for revolution against the killing of innocent people. This is the history, the philosophy, and the theology of social revolution in America. We look at the Stamp Act, the Boston Tea Party, the abolition of slavery, the abolition of child labor, women's voting rights, the civil rights movement. All of them have this in common: courage, sacrifice, dedication, and in-your-face tactics and rhetoric. That's one of the reasons that we've been losing the culture wars the last 40 years, is because the bad guys are using these tactics and we aren't. We will send you this 14-part TV series along with these manuals for students, a teacher's facilitator guide for only $40. Go to 304-289-3700, 304-289-3700. Here's President Trump asking religious leaders to help.
Peace is never beyond the grasp of those willing to reach it. So today we call for calm, for moderation, and for the voices of tolerance to prevail over the purveyors of hate. And finally, I ask the leaders of the region, political and religious, Israeli and Palestinian, Jewish and Christian and Muslim, to join us in the noble quest for lasting peace.
Here's why Muslim leaders won't. The hour will not begin until the Muslims fight the Jews, and the Muslims will kill them until the Jew hides behind a rock or a tree, and the rock or tree will say, "O Muslim, O slave of Allah, there is a Jew behind me. Come and kill him." Those are the words of Muhammad, the founder of Islam. If they try and make peace with the Jews, they're denying that Muhammad was prophesying the truth to them about the end of time. Friend, if you want to learn more, go to our website, randallterry.com, and watch a free episode of What Would Mohammed Do? And learn about anti-Semitism being inherent in the words of Mohammed. God bless you.